Hi everyone, my name is Whitney and today I'm going to teach you how to add and subtract fractions with unlike denominators. So let's get started. So for today's standard, it is NFA1. It's a 5th grade standard and it reads, add and subtract fractions with unlike denominators by replacing given fractions with equivalent fractions in such a way as to produce an equivalent sum or difference of fractions with like denominators. Okay, so now that we have gone over our standard, we are going to do a quick review of the parts of a fraction. So, for the 2/3, our 2 is our numerator and our 3 is our denominator. Now, the denominator means how many total pieces make up our whole. And the numerator represents how many pieces we have. So in this case, we have 2 pieces of the 3 pieces that make up our whole. So 2/3. Now that we have discussed the parts of the fraction, we're going to now add a fraction together. So we are going to use domino pieces to show our fractions. So for the first domino piece, we have 3 for our numerator and 4 for our denominator. For our second fraction, we have a 1 in the numerator position, and we have a 3 as our denominator. So I'm going to move these out of the way, and we are going to be focusing on addition. So I'm going to put our addition sign. So the first thing that you want to make sure whenever you are adding or subtracting fractions is you have to look first at the denominators. You have to make sure that they are the same before you can add or subtract. The reason is because these are in 2 different measurements. We have fourths over here and thirds over here. So we have to get a common denominator in order to add the pieces together. So the easiest way to do this is to look at our denominators and think to yourself, what would be a common factor between them? One trick that you can do is to multiply the numbers together. And so 4 times 3 gives us 12. So 12 is a common factor because 4 goes into 12 3 times and 3 goes into 12 4 times. So we're going to look at our first fraction again. So 3/4. We need to get our denominator to equal 12. So in order to do that, we have to multiply by 3. Okay? But whatever we do to the denominator, we have to do to the numerator. So essentially, you're multiplying by 1 whole in order to get the fraction to be converted to 12ths. So 3 times 3 gives us 9, and 4 times 3 gives us 12. So the fraction now becomes 9/12. The fraction is still the same amount as 3/4, it just looks different because we multiplied by 1 whole, okay? So 3 over 3 is 1 whole. So now let's move on to 1/3. So just like this first fraction, we have to make sure that our denominators are the same. So we need to multiply now by 4, okay? So remember, whatever we do to the denominator, we have to do to the numerator. So 3 times 4 gives us 12, and 1 times 4 gives us 4. So now the fraction becomes 4/12, okay? And again, this is the same amount as 1/3, we just multiplied by 1, okay? So now that our fractions have the same denominators, we're going to rewrite them down here. So 9/12 plus 4/12. Now that our denominators are the same, we can officially add them together. So what we're going to do is 9 plus 4 gives us 13, And since our denominators are the same, we will keep it the same, because all the denominator means is how many total pieces make up the whole. In this case, our whole has a total of 12 pieces. Okay, so now that you know how to add a fraction, we are going to subtract some fractions. So we're going to use the same fractions as before with our dominoes pieces. We have 3 over 4 and 1 over 3. So we have 3/4 and 1/3. So instead of adding them together, we're now going to subtract. Okay? So now the process is still going to be the same. So what do? We look at our denominators. Ask yourself, are these denominators the same? In this case, they're not the same. So we're going to have to make them the same. So let's start with the first fraction, 3/4. Okay, so we got to think in our minds, what is a common factor between 4 and 3? Just like in our previous problem, we multiplied these two numbers together. So we're going to do the same thing with 3/4. So we're going to multiply by 3 over 3, which again is simply 1, but we have to multiply by 3 over 3 in order to get 12ths for our denominator. Okay, so 3 times 3 is 9, and then 4 times 3 is 12. Okay, so this is our new fraction, 9/12. For our second fraction, 1/3, again, we have to look at our denominator. Our denominator needs to be in 12ths. So 3 times what number will give us 12ths? Okay, so we're multiplying by 4 over 4, because remember, whatever you do to the denominator, you have to do to the numerator. So that's why we're multiplying by 4 over 4. So our new fraction is going to become 1 times 4 equals 4, and 3 times 4 equals 12. So the new fraction becomes 4/12. So now that our denominators are the same, we are going to subtract. So I'm rewriting the fractions. Okay, so now that our denominators are the same, we can subtract. So 9 minus 4 gives us 5. And just like in the previous problem, now that we have a common denominator, this tells us how many pieces make up our whole. So we're still in 12ths, so we're going to have our 12 in this fraction, okay? Because there's 12 total pieces that make up our whole. How many do we have? 5. So our answer is 5 over 12. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that it is helpful for you. Adding and subtracting fractions with unlike denominators are not as scary as they seem, so I hope that you continue to review what we talked about today and to have a great day. Bye guys.